May include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The air is alive with little animal alarm calls. I think there's a leopard close by. This is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
I was wrong. The alarm calls are for a predatory bird, and it looks to be a tawny eagle. Or a juvenile African hawk eagle. It's quite difficult to see in that light, but it just tried to kill some guinea fowl, which are like bush chickens, and they all took off into the air. Now, my name is Brent Smith, and I have my very good friend Wiem on camera with me today. And a big welcome to all our schools today. Great to have you with us, and I hope to have lots and lots of questions from all of you. I'm sure you're a lot of smarty pants, so I might even ask you a question or two back. Now, there were leopards in this area, but I think all those alarm calls were for that bird, which is still there, but I can't really see what it is with that light. I think it could be a juvenile African hawk eagle. Okay. Now I know on the morning safari the leopards were left sleeping just around here. That's why I thought maybe that all that noise was for the leopards, but it doesn't look like it is. So I'm just going to have a quick look in here. So you can see how cool is this. I'm driving off the road. So we're driving right through the bush, off the road, trying to find us some kitty cats. Fahrenheit, so it's likely that those leopards might be sleeping in the shade or up in a tree, so we're keeping our eyes open. Whew, nice and warm today. Let's check carefully around here. So I heard the leopards were sleeping close by here. I hear some dwarf mongoose, and they're also alarm calling. Looks like those little leopards have disappeared, so I think they might have gone down. I'm sure she's trying to get Hosanna to come to her. Let's see, maybe they're going to go down for a little drink. So, Ariam, we are in South Africa, right on the southern tip of Africa. We're in a part of South Africa called the Kruger National Park, which lies in the northeastern corner of South Africa and borders with Mozambique and Zimbabwe. And we are in the Djuma Game Reserve, which is part of that Kruger National Park system. So I'm just going to go down just a little bit just to try and see. Alright, so what we're doing is just to see if we can see her nicely.
So, Sanga, no, we don't really have to catch any of these animals. The only time we would catch an animal is if potentially there was something wrong with them that had been caused by people. So let's say somebody had tried to poach one of these leopards or had left a piece of wire lying around and had wrapped around its leg, then we would have to go and try and interfere to help that animal and get rid of that. If they get hurt naturally, then we don't interfere at all. So these animals live a completely wild life. We try not to interfere with them. We try not to touch them or do anything with them. We try to leave them to live their life as wild and free as possible. But isn't that spectacular with Xongile lying at the water edge? So Lee's corner people spot pattern. So it is a very warm day. It's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit today, so very, very hot, and that's why she's probably come down for a little drink. She's also, like I say, been pacing up and down, rubbing up against her mom. I think she's hoping that mom has come back, because this morning they were by themselves, and I think she's hoping that mom has come back and has got food for them, because often the mom will go away and try and get food and then come back and fetch them. Well, Fabiola, not really. We're not very scared about being close to the animals because most of these animals are habituated. So they're very, very used to us in the vehicles. And because we don't chase them or try and kill them or do anything to hurt them, they become used to the cars and they know that the cars are something that is there but is not anything to worry about. And so they are very relaxed with them and they're get these beautiful visuals like we see now. And isn't that incredible as she's coming closer? She's almost stalking her mom, so she's practicing her stalking to be able to try and learn how to get up closer when she's going to be hunting later in life. She needs to be able to know how to do it. So you see how she's going into the cover? Her mom has spotted her, but she still thinks that she's being very stealthy. Unfortunately, not very stealthy at all, moving the grass far too much, and you can see she's trying to use that fallen over log to get close to her mom. So isn't that incredible? So that is her territorial call. She's busy calling like that, and that's probably because she's been doing soft little contact calls for her little male cub and he hasn't been answering, so now she's calling a little bit more to be able to resonate out, and so that male, if he's a little bit further away and can't hear that contact call, can hear that and then come and find his mom. So she's definitely trying to call the little boy as well and hoping that he's going to hear that and come closer. So Lee's Corner, you guys were asking what these leopards eat, and they will eat quite a multitude of things. Leopards in general are an animal that is very opportunistic, so they will take on any little bit of nutrients they can get. So these guys will eat things like insects, so termites and small little grasshoppers, all the way up to baby elephants, so everything in between, like all the antelope species. They'll eat reptiles, birds, so very, very varied diet that they have. And isn't that amazing, the two of them playing at the water's edge there? Absolutely beautiful. So Chrislyn, we were talking about the spots and that they have different ones, and the reason why they have spots is for camouflage. So now when they ride out in the open like this, we're really lucky that we can see them out in the open. Leopards tend to like thick, dense bush where they can hide in, and those spots just help to break up this animal and make it really tough to see them. So when we actually came down and we spotted them, I was telling Dave there's a leopard, and it took him a while to actually see them. When they're in this dappled, shaded light under the trees, it's actually quite tough to see those colors and to see that animal. So the spots are there all just for camouflage, to make this leopard hide away and be completely invisible to its prey animals that it's trying to hunt. Look at that, isn't that incredible? So Rachel, it depends. In terms of feeding her, leopards are very opportunistic, so any chance they can get, they will try and find some sort of food. So like I say, it will be birds, small mammals, things like Impala would be the favorite prey item. And in terms of when she feeds her, it's just when there's an opportunity. So some days it might be every day for a few days, sometimes it might be only every 3-4 days, sometimes it can be longer. Now these leopards, we've been watching them this week for the last sort of 5 days, and we haven't seen them on a carcass in about 4 or 5 days, and that's probably why the little female is so eager to follow mom. She thinks mom is maybe going to be leading her to a carcass and to some food, and she's probably very hungry. You can see they're looking quite slender, so she wants some food, and she thinks that mom's going to be taking her, and that's why mom is calling and hoping that she'll then go off and get some food. Natangi, these little leopard cubs normally get pushed out by their mom when they reach anywhere between 14 months and 2 years old. I have seen young leopards that unfortunately their moms have been killed by other predators at already 9-10 months, going off on their own and surviving, but generally it's about 14 months to 2 years before they go on their own, and they will only become territorial adults where they have their own territory and their own place when they reach about 3.5-4 for the females, and the males, they sometimes a little bit older when they reach about 5 or 6, and they're a little bit bigger, and they can actually then challenge some other males for a place. So Brian, leopards can get quite large. They're not the biggest of the big cats, but they will get to about, in a male, you'll see them get to about 180 pounds, maybe up to 200 pounds in a really large male. This female that you see here, she probably will only ever get to about 100, 120 pounds. So the females are much smaller than the males. But still quite large, and they are very, very powerful. So even though they're not as big as lions, in terms of pound for pound, these cats are really very strong, and probably a little bit stronger than the lions. But are they not beautiful? You can see Xongile is her cub. They look quite similar, and you can see now a little bit of grooming. So when they've been walking in this grass, there's lots of parasites all over the grass, and so she's busy grooming, trying to get all those little ticks off the ears and keep her nice and clean. Alright, so we're going to watch these two and hope that the young male comes out and joins them. And while we do that, we're going to go across to Brent, who's got a rather large antelope for us.
Well, definitely one of the biggest antelope we get out here in the Greater Kruger National Park. It's called a Kudu, and these are just the girls here. The males have very big horns. Now you'll notice a Kudu's got very big ears, and look at that one, it's listening to what I'm saying. Now, of course, good hearing can help keep you safe out here in the African bush, and kudu often live in very thick bush, so they need those big ears to protect them from all the leopards and lions and other predators that are out here. Now, this kudu's got a very interesting stripe, a very unusual stripe on her bottom. I'll definitely keep a lookout for that, because I don't think there are other kudus who've got that little stripe like that, a particular sort of almost a tick on her one side. Now, there's still a few more hanging about. There we go. Now, they are browsers. Now, what that means is they only eat leaves from the trees. They don't eat grass. And we can see all the nasty biting flies on her. Oh, big female, that one. So that's why they quite often live in thick bush, because they only eat leaves. Now, unfortunately, there are no males here, but Alexandra would like to know how large can a male kudu's horns grow. Well, very large. They can probably get to about 4.5-5 feet in length, Alexandra. So very, very long. And those horns are there, so they can fight for girlfriends. Oh, there's an oxpecker on her back. There we go, a little bird there. Oh, a baby and an adult oxpecker. Now what they do is they eat all the bad parasites that are on the birds. I mean on the antelope. So they eat ticks and fleas and other things, and they've got a very specially designed bill that they comb through the animal's hair to eat all those things. Now I've got something that I want you all to try at sitting in your classroom. So I'm just going to take this out. Now we've just looked at how big those kudu's ears are, and I said it helps with the hearing. So all I want you to do, even though you do look a little bit silly when you do it, take your hands. Everyone got their hands up? All classrooms, hands up. Take your hands, put them behind your ears like this, and then listen. You can see how much more you can hear. So the kudu's ears are like this all the time, so they've got such good hearing. So if you put your hand behind your ear like that and see how much extra stuff you can hear. Oh, there's that. See, now look how she's always moving her ears. See how she can point them backwards, point them forwards to listen all around her. Now, Zach is wondering, why do they have stripes? Well, Zach, with a lot of animals, just having a few stripes and things like that is to help with camouflage. It breaks up the solid mass or solid line, and you can see those stripes in thick bush might look like a branch, because you must remember lions and leopards, they only really see in black and white. So a white line like that might look like a branch and it helps hide them. Jonathan's wondering, how long does a kudu live for? It doesn't live for too long. A big kudu probably will live at the oldest about 8 to 10 years. So they're not very long-lived animals, but nothing out here ever really dies of old age. Something always eats you first. There we go, one ear facing one way, one facing the other. Standing by. Sorry, someone is calling me on the Game Drive radio. Oh. They are very, very beautiful. Well, let's leave the kudus, see what else we can find. Now, Rishi would like to know, how fast can a kudu run? They're quite quick runners. They can probably get up to about 55, 60 kilometers an hour, but they're incredible jumpers. They can very good jumping, and that's one of the ways they try to keep out of the lion's mouth. Okay, so we're going to go see what else we can find. While we do that, Henry is going to take you on a bit of a bushwalk.
Hello everybody, I hope you're having a good day at school. Nice to come on safari when you're at school, don't you think? I think so. Hampton Oaks, I believe, and Lease Corner elementary schools. Wonderful to have you with us. As Brent said, I am on foot. There it is, a small foot that I have, size 7. We're looking here at an acacia tree. Now we can answer any questions in the same way that Tristan and Brent have been answering questions. And this little acacia tree is a little ecosystem all on its own. And what it has over here, if I just bend it upwards, is a spider. Can you see the spider there? It's there, Jandre. Jandre is on camera. My baby finger. You got it there. Yeah. There's a little spider, and what it's hoping for is ants and things to come crawling up here and see if they can't, well, ants that are coming to look for food. And I suspect, I actually don't know what this thing here is. Can you see that I'm tapping? I don't know what that is. Let me just come around the side here. Sorry about that. I know that's a bit messy, Jandre. Jandre gets very cross with me if I don't make things nice and still for him, you see. I think that this is a little ant's nest. And they've built it here. And I can actually see one or two little pieces of ant that have been eaten, I think, by that spider. And the spider very cleverly has come to build his web next door to where his food lives. It's a bit like having a farm, really, and eating off your own farm. And it's a very clever spider. It's not an orb web spider, so you know, of course, that most spiders, or a lot of spiders, make a web that catches something when it's flying along. This one doesn't. This one makes a sort of, well, it does make a web, but it's largely probably hunting. Isn't he clever? I think that's amazing. Hello. Kids from Lee's Corner, you say you love the word ecosystem, and you thank me for using such great vocabulary. Well, I do sort of pride myself on having a relatively okay vocabulary. One tries to use one's words in the best way possible. I'm glad you like that word. Do you know what I meant when I said that this is a little ecosystem unto itself, though? Remember, when we talk about an ecosystem, we talk about everything living and non-living in a natural area. And this particular one here, this little bush, is an ecosystem unto itself simply because all around it, or all in it and around it, are a whole lot of creatures that depend on that one little bush. So we've got the ants, we've got the spider, you'll find that there are aphids and things living on the leaves as well. So you have all sorts of different things living and dependent on this one little bush. Now the bush, of course, is then dependent on the soil underneath it, and the soil underneath it is dependent on the geology, or the rocks that are underneath those. They're all dependent on the amount of water that comes out of the sky in the form of rain. They're all dependent on whatever things might fertilize them. So I think that this acacia bush is probably fertilized largely by the wind. So all of that, of course, forms part of the ecosystem. I'm glad you like the word ecosystem. I do too. Let's carry on this way. Our plan today is to head towards some water because it's quite hot, about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not the hottest that it will get here, but it's quite warm, and so hopefully we'll be able to find some water, and then maybe there'll be an animal coming down to have a drink. Now, Duke, you're wondering what types of trees we have here. Well, Duke, we've probably got, you know, in the Kruger Park, which is the bigger area that we're operating in, there are probably about 900 species of trees. 900 species of trees, that's a lot. I don't know all of them, but I do know most of the ones that we get here. And this one here, this tree that we have over here, is the most common tree. In fact, the most popular tree. And you know what? In fact, as I look at it, there are two trees here. There are two very special, what we call iconic trees. That's a very good word to use, iconic. Not too often though, of course. This is a Marula tree here. And the Marula tree makes delicious fruit. Not this particular tree, because it's unfortunately a male tree. That means it doesn't make fruit. I'll explain that a bit later. And then this one here, this is not the same tree. This is a jackalberry or ebony tree, and I'll show you where it comes. If we go around this way over here, come with me. If we go through here, what you will notice is that there are two trees here in one place. Now these two, the Marula and the ebony, are the most, well, they're the biggest often, and they're also the most beautiful. They're also the easiest to climb, and they both make very nice fruit. You can see there, these two trees have become very close friends. And I suspect that they've probably been growing with each other like this for close to 30 or 40 years. Isn't that amazing? Now, Rachel, you're wondering how tall that particular acacia tree grows. Not very tall. That one is called Acacia exuvialis, or the flaky thorn. It will get tall, well, about sort of that high. That's about 2.5 meters, probably maybe a little bit higher, maybe 3 meters or so, 10 feet. But it will have a very narrow trunk. It'll only be about that narrow like that. But some of the acacia trees that we get here, I'll see if I can spot you one. Like the knob thorn, which is a very big kind of acacia, they grow enormous. Is it a knob thorn over there? I don't think it is, because they don't often grow around. It is a knob. No, it's not. They don't often grow around where the marulas grow. They like different kinds of soil. So the knobthorn is the biggest acacia tree that we get here, and it's called Acacia nigrescens. Good. Nice questions. Here's another acacia if you'd like to see it. Not, of course, that you have a choice. This is a very remarkable one. It's called Acacia. I'm a bit confused. I think it's Acacia robusta. Now that's an unusual one to have growing here. Acacia robusta normally only grows on riverbeds. And you can see up here where I'm pointing, it's been broken by elephants. Elephants love to eat acacia trees, and especially the bark, in the winter time. That's when they come and eat here. Fabiola, you say, do I like being outdoors? Fabiola, I love being outdoors. There's no other reason for me to be doing this job, because most of my job is outdoors, so I love being outdoors rather than indoors, yes. Let's head straight back to Tristan. He's got those beautiful leopards.
Indeed we do, and they are still mobile now. So they've left the dam and they've left that water, and they're now marching straight in a westerly direction. Hosanna didn't join, so the little young male is not here yet, but they are still going, and I wonder if maybe she's not going to take us to a carcass. And wouldn't that be great if there is some food that these little ones can have? She is on quite a mission, so she's moving quite quickly. Considering it's so hot at this time of the day, you wouldn't expect leopards to be walking around. Everybody always talks about how leopards are nocturnal and that they don't move around too much in the daylight hours, but as you can see here, these leopards are moving around in the heat, so they are definitely on their way to something. Hopefully, like I say, it will be some sort of food. These little babies could definitely do with a meal, and look at the little female running after mom there. Isn't that amazing? So you'll see every now and then she'll stop and she turns around and she starts calling to tell the little female, come on, hurry up, catch up with me. And hopefully then also the young male will hear it and he'll start coming. Now, even if the young male is around and he's just being naughty and not listening to mom, he'll be able to follow via the scent. So as they're walking along here, they're leaving a scent trail, and so when he comes along, he'll be able to sniff, okay, my mom and my sister walked on this road. If I follow this, then I'll find them. So I'm sure he will join up at some point. I was quite surprised though that she ended up leaving without actually seeing him. But I think because she called and called and called and called and nothing happened, that she's just gotten a little bit frustrated, and rather than leaving, if she does have a carcass, leaving it exposed and unprotected, get back there and try and take the little female there in the meantime, and then hopefully the male will join a bit later. The little female has got so much energy. She's running around in the side here. She's looking up in the trees, and it's amazing to watch when they follow their mom. You'll find that the little leopard knows that often mom puts the food up in trees. So as they go along, they'll check all of these big trees that you see to my right here. These are perfect trees that a leopard would hide its kill in, and so she's checking just to make sure there's no carcass that mom may be left there. So she'll look and look and look, and once she realizes there's nothing up there, then she'll carry on to mom. And you can see Karula is being so patient with her little one. She stops and she looks back and then just gives a little call, and as if to say, come on, and then the little one will come. It seems like she's just going off there. See, she's just stopping in the shade. Clever girl. So rather than stand in the sun and get baked by the sun, rather come up and go and sit in the shade. Well, Joe, leopards are carnivores, so when I was saying that they'll hide their food or store food in a tree, it's because things like lion and hyenas, which don't climb very well, can get to it if it's left on the ground, so they'd rather go up into the tree and put their carcass in the tree, and they drape it over the branch so that it's protected from those predators. But they are carnivores, so they eat everything that is meat, and like I was saying earlier, very varied diet, so everything from insects all the way up to baby elephants, baby giraffe. Look at the little one running now after mom. She's got quite the swagger, doesn't she? She's got a little bounce to her. She reminds me a bit of Tigger. I don't know if any of you have ever watched Winnie the Pooh, and Tigger, the way he bounces along, it's exactly the way that she runs. But isn't that amazing, just to watch the two of them strolling down the road, completely non-fussed by us? Well, Caroline, what we're seeing here is quite special. Generally, a leopard is a very solitary cat, so it won't move around in groups. They typically like to be on their own, but because this female's got cubs, that's why she's moving with them. So it's not every day that you'll see 2 leopards together, or 3 if the young male had joined. That's very uncommon. Most of the time the leopards are on their own. It's only when the females have their cubs like this that you see them in groups, or if they are mating, then they'll be with the male. But the father of these cubs will play no part in looking after these cubs, so you won't see the father with the female. The reason why is because he's off protecting and patrolling territory and making sure other males don't come in here, because the other males could be a danger to her little cubs. So the male's job is just to protect the territory and make sure that this female is secure in her territory. Tina, so with cubs, Xongile, I think, was chasing a little francolin. I heard a francolin alarm call and she went bounding off into the bush. So I think she was chasing a francolin. I can hear the francolin's busy alarm calling. So she's just disappeared in the thicket. But whatever it was, obviously got away, because she's now turning and coming back to her mom. So Gina, they can have as many as 4 in a litter, but generally it's about 2 is the average. Tina, sorry, my voice in my ear didn't come through very clearly there, but Tina, I do apologize. So they can have up to 4, but the average in this particular area is 2. Sometimes, rarely, we'll get 3, and again, quite commonly is 1. So anywhere between 1 and 4, but in this particular area, the average is normally 2. When you go up into East Africa, so Tanzania and Kenya, sometimes you'll get 3 up there. Well, Zania, yes, the fur does keep them very warm. You can imagine it's like wearing a really warm jersey. So they do get quite hot, and how they stay cool is they will walk with their mouths open and they will pant. So they'll breathe quite excessively, and that just helps to get rid of all the hot air that's building up inside of them and just control their temperature a little bit. So they do utilize panting. It's like if you've ever had a dog, when your dog is hot, your dog will breathe quite fast with its tongue out, and it's the same thing with the leopards. So when these leopards, hopefully they'll stop at some point and turn around and face us, you'll see both of them actually have their mouths open at the moment. They're both panting quite a bit because it's very warm, and walking out in the sunshine like this is hot if you've got that big fur coat. But what will also happen is in the summer months, they will almost go through a shedding process where their coat becomes slightly finer. They don't have as thick a coat because it gets warmer, and then as the winter comes, the coat tends to thicken up a little bit. Now we're approaching another little pan, and given that it's quite warm, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually stop for a drink again. Well, had a little itch on the shoulder as well, so she's had a little lick. I couldn't agree more, Idly. They are really, really cute. They're absolutely beautiful animals. They are my favorite animal by far. I really love spending time with them, and their coat is just so incredibly beautiful. So I really, really do like them as well. So your comment is absolutely perfect for describing them. So it seems like she's gone off the road now. I wonder if maybe inside here is where this food is. Well, George, they have quite a few different calls, so depending on what the situation is will determine how they call. So just now we heard her making that deep, almost rasping sound like somebody sawing wood, and that is a normally either a territorial call, or if she's trying to contact a leopard that is very far away, she'll use that call. Otherwise, they have a very soft call where it's just almost a soft, small sound, which we heard just now, and it's a sound that they'll use when they're trying to contact one another close by. So when she's trying to call the cubs and she doesn't want to attract too much attention to herself, then she'll make this little soft contact call. And then sometimes she'll do what's called chuffing. Now, chuffing is generally when they have small cubs and they almost make a sound like, and that calls the little cub out of its den to come and feed. And the reason why she uses that one and not any of the others is because when they're very, very small, they're still susceptible to predation. So things like hyenas can be really dangerous. And so if she makes a lot of noise, hyenas can hear that, and they know that that leopard maybe has little cubs or has some food item, and they'll go in there, and then the cub is at risk. So they make that really soft call that nobody else will hear it. And she'll only make that when she knows she's in an area where she left her cubs. Alright guys, so we're going to carry on following them and see where she takes us, and hopefully the mystery will be solved shortly. And while we do that, we're going to go to James, who's got a female tree. So we're not going to go to James just yet. I think James is experiencing a bit of freezing with his signal, so we're going to stay with them, which is perfectly fine. But while we're following, just on our left hand side here is a beautiful spider. So I'm trying not to destroy its web, but it's just next to our car, and it's called a golden orb web spider. Really tough to see it, but you can see Dave's going in there slowly, and there we go. So it's a little golden orb web spider. They're still going to get much bigger than that. And this is a female, so she's got bright coloration. You can see that bright yellow on her abdomen and the blacks. And that yellow and black is signifying to all the other predators out here, like birds, that this is a dangerous animal. Do not eat me. I'm not something that is edible. Now you'll see that there's all those little bits above and below the spider, and those are all of the things she's caught in her web, and she's managed to feed off them. And what she does is she then uses the exoskeleton or the shell of that insect, and she sews it into her web to be able to show everybody, this is my web, be careful. So things like antelope, which are like impalas or kudu or waterbuck, if they're walking along this path, they can see that and they don't walk through her web and destroy it. So even for us in a vehicle, that's how I spotted it, is because of that big section. So we're going to try go around and not destroy her web. Alright, so in the time that James was frozen, he's apparently managed to climb the tree. So let's go and have a look at what he's been up to and see how he got up there.
I've climbed the tree, exactly as Tristan said, and I'm sitting in a female Marula tree. Now remember I said that there were separate male and female trees? That is the case. Now, the main difference between a male and a female tree is that the female produces fruit. They both produce flowers, and some plants are both male and female. Some plants are male on one plant and female on the other. And if I'm not mistaken, how you say it is if a plant is dioecious, that's dioecious, it's another good word for you chaps at Lee's Corner, it is both or separately male and female. So a Marula tree is dioecious, and something like a, what can I think of? I can't think of, like a Cumbritum tree, a bush willow tree like this one over here, is monoecious. That means it's got male and female parts on the same tree. Now the point of this is, of course, that the female tree is very important out here because it produces the fruit. But without the male tree, it cannot produce the fruit. So what happens is that the wind blows like it's blowing now, and it will carry pollen on the wind from the male flowers. They will then touch the flowers on the female tree, and they will then produce a fruit like this. This is a Marula fruit, and it comes from this very tree. Now the Marula fruits are delicious, but they're not very common. They're only around at this time of the year. They have lots of them at this time of the year, but then they're gone for the rest of the year. So they only last about 3 or 4 weeks before they're gone. And I'll show you how you eat one. You take it like this. You bite off the skin, which doesn't taste very nice. You spit that out. And then you suck the
So we've just been following these two, and unfortunately they've crossed south over our boundary and carried on, so we're not going to be able to see if they get to a carcass. It does happen that way sometimes, but we will definitely follow up in this area later and see if maybe she comes back to fetch Hosanna. But it's the way it goes. Like I say, sometimes these leopards are on our side, sometimes they're not. And so it's really nice for them to be able to have a really big area to roam around in and to be free in, so all happy with that. But what a special little start to the drive it was to have them right at that pan out in the open and calling. Really incredible sighting. So, given all of that excitement, we're now going to go and see if we can find anything else. We're going to try and head to our western side of the reserve and see if we can maybe find any lions. That's what we're looking for this afternoon as well. So that was our original plan before we bumped into the leopards. So we're going to go and try and see if we can find them. Hopefully they'll be out and about as well. Now I hope if she did catch something and she has a carcass that it hasn't been stolen by anything. They do seem to be quite hungry, so I really hope that they find what they're looking for, and hopefully they've got a carcass and they get a good meal in. Even though it means we might not see them for a couple of days, it's going to be good for them to get a healthy, hearty meal. At the end of the day, the cubs are growing quite a bit, so Nea, that spider that we showed you, it is poisonous, but not to us as people. In fact, should I not say poisonous? It is venomous, because poison and venom are two different things. So poison is something that you can eat and it then makes you sick, whereas venom is something that is injected that makes you sick. So a spider is venomous and not poisonous, but yes, that spider is venomous, but not enough to hurt us as people. So if it had to bite you, you would not feel very good, but it wouldn't be life-threatening, and you probably would be okay. You would maybe get a bit of swelling and it would be a little bit painful for a bit, but not too bad. So something close to what a bee sting would be like. There are other spiders that are far worse that we get in this area, and they tend to be a little bit smaller. That orb web spider, the reason why it's so colorful, because I was saying to you that they indicate that through their colors to try and show birds that they're dangerous, is a lot more of a show. It's trying to kind of deter predators. Alright. So, Lee's Corner, I believe you guys are leaving us and going off to some of your other classes. I hope you enjoyed it and really had a good time with us. The leopards were fantastic. So I hope you guys have a really good day. And with Hampton Oaks, glad that you are staying with us. And as we've come up the road here, we've actually got some Kudu and Impala that are giving us a little roadblock. So there is the Kudu. This is the largest antelope that we see in this area. You can see it's got really big ears. It almost looks a bit like Mickey Mouse. So it's got that small head and big ears. Now the reason why it has those big ears is because Kudu like to spend most of their time in really thick bush. So they like to be in places where it's very dense. And when it's dense, it's really hard to see. So those big ears just help for them to be able to hear very well. And they're able to pick up all the sounds of the predators that are lurking around them. And that's how they often are able to locate them, is through hearing. Now next to them or behind them is some of the impalas. Now the impala is the most common antelope that we have here, but they really are one of the most beautiful as well. They have these incredibly beautiful shiny coats that glisten in these sunny conditions. And that is because they really look after their skin. So they groom themselves a lot. They have special teeth that have ridges on them that act like a comb. And so they run their teeth through their fur. And it's like you brushing your dog or your cat. It just helps to get rid of all the loose fur and make their coat really look quite good. Now, these are all boys. And at this time of the year, you often do see this. There's just little bachelor herds that will be on the fringe of a herd of females. Now they're not competing in any way for mating at the moment because it's not mating season, so they're all going to be friends and they stay together just for protection. So even though they're males, when it comes to April, May, they'll start fighting with each other, but now they're going to use one another to be able to protect themselves. The more eyes and ears and noses that you have, the easier it is to be able to spot predators. Alright, so we're going to carry on and we're going to go back to James, who I believe is still eating marulas. I hope he doesn't eat too many. We were talking about it the other day and he was saying to me if he eats too many he feels a little bit sick. So hopefully he hasn't eaten too many and that he's still okay.
They are delicious, and I'm not going to eat any more. Maybe one more, but I'll see later. Right, I was just finishing my story up here in the tree. I don't remember exactly what I was saying to you, but remember, female tree here, male tree somewhere around here, pollinated by the wind, and makes those delicious fruits, which of course, I know what I was telling you. I was telling you can make jam out of them, you can make a beer out of them, you can use them in puddings and things. If you like, you might use a plum, you can make a Marula pudding if you want to. And the tree itself is used medicinally for many things. So the bark, for example, is used to treat malaria sometimes. It's also used if you want to have a boy. So if a couple wants to have a boy, they'll go to the male tree, they'll make a tea out of the bark, they'll drink that, and hopefully they'll have a boy. If they want a girl, they'll go to a female tree, make a tea out of the bark of that, and that's what it will be. So that's the story of this tree. Now I'm going to try very hard not to fall out of this tree. And Randre, the cameraman, is going to laugh very hard if I fall out the tree. And while I do this, I'm going to say goodbye to you all and hope that you have a very wonderful day at school. I know that, well, it probably won't be quite as entertaining as being on safari here with us. But while I climb down from here, you go to your next lesson, and the rest of you go off to Tristan, who's just down there with the leopards.
Welcome back, guys. We're still slowly making our way towards the western side. Now, the reason why we're going to the west is I had a little report of the Nkuhuma pride being around. I know James said that Taxon had some tracks coming from Sydney's dam this morning and crossing into Simbambili, and I believe they went south from there towards Arathusa. So we're going to head in that direction to try and see if we can find the Nkuhuma pride. I really want to catch up with them. It's been a while since I've seen them. I don't think I've actually seen them since the last time when I did my interview drive, which is now almost, I think, November, somewhere around there, October, November. So it's been a long time since I've seen the Nkuhumas, and so I really want to catch up with them and see how the little ones are doing, see how much they've grown. It'd be really good to see them. But it must be quite a upheaval in lion dynamics at the moment, because there's all kinds of interesting things that have been happening with the lions. We've got males all over the place. We've had the Matimba males come through. The Birminghams are around. I heard that the Majingilans were seen this morning south of Arathusa. So they're all in this area at the moment. And now the Nkuhumas have come in. We saw the Solalas yesterday. The Sticks are around. So all of these females, maybe there's some that are in heat that are bringing all the males. But I think in all likelihood, the males are busy having a little bit of a conflict amongst them. So they're all pushing one another around. And I have a feeling that the Majingilans have followed the Matimba's scent up into this area, and that's why they're here, because the Matimbas have come this far north, and the Majingilans know that this is still their territory, and so they're going to come and make sure that those Matimbas don't go into their area and don't stay here. The problem for the Matimbas is they're now getting sandwiched between everybody. Last I heard was up on the Manyeleti boundary, and the Birminghams are lying to the east of them, the Majingilans to the west, and lots of males in the Manyeleti to the north. So they've got a bit of a problem. I don't think they're going to be able to stay up that way for too much longer. They're going to have to try and find somewhere else. Luckily for them, though, they are really big guys and they're quite intimidating, so I would imagine that they will be able to push younger males. If they can find an area where there's some young males that are inhabiting it, that they can push them out. The reason why we're going to try and just take it slow to get towards those lions is that it is still very, very warm. And so I don't think the lions are going to be too active at this time of the day. So I want to try and get there a little bit later, just hoping that they might wake up a little bit and decide to start moving around. Alright, so we can continue with our bird challenge, because we've got a little bee-eater there. So there's a beautiful coloured bird. These bee-eaters are quite common here, especially this little bee-eater. It stays here all year round, and you'll find that it's often perched on open branches like this. And did you see it wiping its beak there? That beak wipe is because it's probably fed on an insect, and sometimes they get a little wing or bit of an exoskeleton on the beak, and so they fly up to a branch like that and they just wipe it all off and get their beak in a nice clean condition. The colors on this bird are amazing. They've got that beautiful yellow throat patch, bright green back, and then a little blue line that runs over that black part of the eye. Very pretty birds. And as the name suggests, bee eaters, they actually do eat bees quite a bit. Although it's not only what they eat, they'll feed off multiple different insects. I've seen them eating butterflies, moths, and lots of flying insects, small dung beetles. But they do like bees, and they will go after them quite a bit. And when they do, they're quite clever. They'll fly down, grab the bee, and then they go up to a branch like that, and they actually wipe their beak on that branch, and that basically helps with getting out the sting, and then they can swallow it without getting stung in the throat. So very, very clever. Right, well, there's another one. I'd actually be quite interested to know if anybody is keeping tabs on the bird list, what the count is at the moment. I think I'm still behind Brent. So, Nev, I know you've been keeping count. I don't know if anybody else has. Nev, if you're watching, let us know what's happening and how far behind Brent I am. I can't be too far now. We've had a few birds, and I haven't heard Brent calling in too many, so I'm hoping that we've caught up a little bit. It would be good if we have. It's actually a really good day for birds. This heat will cause the insects to be quite active, and insects will be flying around, and so the birds that hunt insects will be quite active. So it'll be good to do a bit of birding this afternoon. And on the subject of birds, Aaron, we don't have hummingbirds in South Africa. Unfortunately, I would really wish we did. They are beautiful birds, and I would love to watch them feeding and see that incredible wing beat that they have. Unfortunately, we don't get them, but we do get what's called a sunbird. Now, the sunbirds are quite similar. They look a little bit like hummingbirds, but don't hover like the hummingbird does. So, yeah. Alright, we are going to go back to James, who I think he's got a bird of his own.
A bird of my own. I don't know why I said it like that. There is a red-billed hornbill, and I think it's a baby one that's probably just emerged from the nest, and I can see a couple of tree knots that are perhaps it's a very comfortable and safe nesting spot in this Lania Schweinfurtii tree, in other words the false Marula. And I can tell he's a youngster, of course, by the fact that his beak is very small. Ooh. And there's a variable skink on this termite mound. Andre, go that way. In fact, if you come over here, I think you'll probably get him quite nicely. Let me go up above him. No, he's moved now. My shoes have lost all sense of grip. That has thoroughly chased off what was a very attractive variable skink. I do apologise for that. Anyway, the bird is still up there, and I think you'll find that it's just emerged. It looks very small, slightly unsure of itself. The beak is about a half the size that it's going to be eventually. Yes, it is. He's listening to me, talking about his own biology. And I'm sure the nest must have been in this false Marula tree somewhere here. Marvellous. Now, there are squirrels alarm calling all over the place. I don't think Hosanna pitched up at the Karula and Xongile sighting, so he could be around here somewhere. We'll keep an eye out for him, but otherwise we're going to head sort of from pan to pan, as it were, and see if we can't find something drinking, perhaps an elephant or something like that. Otherwise we will just stop and look at the smaller things. Chandra, I'm going to go down this way, so that you can artistically place this groovier bicolour bush between me and you. See how artistic that was. Now, Espen, you want to know if there are any differences between the yellow and red-billed hornbills other than their beaks. Yes, there are. The yellow-billed hornbill, other than the color of their beak, the yellow-billed hornbill has a much bigger beak and is actually a bigger bird. And that means that they've got separate trophic niches. And separate trophic niches is a fancy or quite silly way of saying that they eat different things. So the yellow-billed hornbill will eat things like up to the size of a chameleon sometimes. They will eat just slightly bigger prey, much bigger grasshoppers and that sort of thing. But they will have an overlap of what they eat. So the red-billed, the yellow-bill's the bigger one. That's the one that eats chameleons. I forget what I said there. The yellow-billed will eat smaller insects, and they will both eat things like termites, for example. They'll both go and sit on the top of termite mounds and eat termites. But you'll find the red-billed eating far more things like ants and probably smaller beetles, where the yellow-billed will go for things like reptiles if it can. Even I've seen yellow-billed hornbill eating a small rodent before. So it's just a question of how the different size of food that they eat. Eventually, they would have had a relatively recent common ancestor, you'll find. And then they split apart just to take advantage of the different food niches that we have out here. There's something very bright and very orange. And it is, if I am not mistaken, the fruit of Lanier Schweinfurtii, which I don't think is very edible. Anyway, there it is. Over there, something is stabbing me in my ankle, Andre. What do you think it is? It's just a tick bite. That is being rubbed raw. There it is. I'm not going to eat it. Anything orange out here, unless Herbert says that is edible, I will not eat. It smells okay. Right, let's carry on along here. See what else we can see. It's a very pleasant afternoon. Ooh. What we have here is not a common grass in these parts. This is Africa's premier grazing grass, and it's called red oat grass in East Africa, and it is the reason that there are so many millions of animals living in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem. It's called Themida triandra, or red grass, we just call it here. Over there it's called red oat grass, which I think is rather romantic for some reason. Here it's called rooigras, which means red grass. And it's not very common in this area because the soil's not really right for it. But this is what the buffalo are up on the plains of the southern Manileti and in the southern Sabi sands. This is what they're eating. They're not eating the seeds, they're eating these leaves here. It's got a very distinctive kind of razorish feel to the leaf blade, and this is the most protein-rich leaf that you can find out here if you happen to be a grazing animal. And that's why we're just not seeing any buffalo around here at the moment. They're all on the Gabbro plains eating this stuff. That's quite a nice find, actually. Right, Brent Leo Smith has managed to find something associated with water. It is a lizard, but it's not a crocodile.
Well, this is very, very interesting because, as James said, something that's normally associated with water would be a water monitor. This is, however, a rock monitor that is swimming. So both species can swim. Oh, he's maybe not as good as the water monitor, but I think the reason this monitor lizard is taken to the water is possibly, he's out. He's at that short swim. I'm not made for the water. Is the weaver birds here at the Djuma Dam. So I think he's actually after those babies. So I think he was thinking about swimming across the other side and then decided against it. So we've got village weavers nesting above the water, and they've chosen that spot because to protect them from predators such as that monitor lizard. Oh, there's a hippo, a nervous one as well. There were 3 when we arrived, but it is quite wonderful here. I'm just gonna see quickly, I was really hoping in this heat we'd get some elephants down here, but so far none. Ooh, the sun's bright today. But I just want to watch these birds for a little bit. Now I'll always take a closer look, and you can actually see the new nests as opposed to the old nests, the greenish nests that have just been made. And you can see there's some that are completely abandoned, that are not even in use. The males have spent all their time making this beautiful nest, and then the female has decided it's not good enough. Well, he's doing some repairs. See that? Weaving in that bright green. So, plenty village weavers. Now, them underneath them, just have a look at that. What's that? A little bit to the right. What is that in the water there? Ah, it's a terrapin. Now, if any of those babies happen to fall out of that nest, those terrapins would be there waiting to devour them. But no ellies, as I was hoping, just busy weaver birds. Now, you always want to look carefully amongst the village weavers for one that's got a yellow eye, because then, of course, it's not a village weaver, it's a lesser mast weaver. And the monitor's trying to stealthily sneak away from us, but I can still see you, mister. Well, we're going to keep on our search, and I'm hoping we're going to connect with either Quarantine, Kuchava, or Inkanyeni on our wanderings. The hippos here are a little bit nervous. If we get no luck, what we'll do is we're going to do a big loop across to Chitwa Dam and see if we can see some hippos a bit better. But while we make our way on, sorry, Tristan's found another bird and he's still playing catch up.
We are still playing catch up, Brent, but this is one we've already seen. This is a Swainson Spur Fowl. We saw it the other day, but it is a really nice sighting of a Swainson Spur Fowl. It's on this termite mound and it's calling away to the best of its ability to try and obviously attract a mate. So they often get up on these high sort of areas and mounds, and that means that they can be able to push their sound out, and any potential mate around can hear it and come closer. But you can see it's doing a little bit of an itch. Now, if you have a look on the legs there, you'll see that there's these little spikes coming off, and so that's where it gets its name, Spur Fowl. It used to be called a Franklin, but they changed the name because of those spurs. And those spurs, you can see, are very, very long and sharp. And so when they're competing, if there's males competing over a female, they'll come together and they fly up into the air and they push their feet into one another. And they're able to do quite a bit of damage. I watched two Franklins fighting the other day, and there was feathers flying all over the place as they were hooking these spurs into each other. So quite an incredible adaptation they've got on their legs. It's having a little look into the sky, so I wonder if there's not a bird of prey flying around here somewhere. I don't see anything, but I think it was just having a little look, just making sure that there isn't. So always got to look up when you're a Franklin. Things come diving from below. What a character this is. I've never seen one hold that pose for so long. It's either seeing something on the ground or it's seeing something in the sky. But either way, it doesn't look very comfortable at all. Amazing. Oh, there we go. Still looking. Ah, there we go. So straight above us is what looks like a martial eagle.
We're not going to get it.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get it.
It's straight up.
Yeah, it's just straight up, but it might come into frame. Dave's saying that unfortunately it is straight above him, so it's going to be difficult.
I'm afraid I can't see it.
No, unfortunately not, but it is going away from us, so let's just see, maybe we can get it. There we go, so there is a martial eagle, there we go. So there's the martial eagle, busy flying around, and these martial eagles will hunt these francolins, and so that's why it's keeping a beady eye up there. It's just watching this eagle and making sure that that eagle's not swooping down coming towards it. You'll find that if that eagle did start swooping, this little francolin would go diving into that thicket around that mound and try and stay out of the way. But there we go. So it's not crazy, this bird. It doesn't just look up for nothing. Very, very clever. Now, that eyesight is incredible. I don't know if you saw how far away that eagle is. So to spot that from that little mound is amazing. Really, really cool. Thank you, little Swainson spur fowl. Project Alpha, I couldn't agree more. That does have great eyesight indeed. It's pretty incredible to spot that. It took me a while to find it, and it was spot on. It was busy watching, and pretty incredible to see. You wouldn't think that a bird of that size would have such good eyesight, but when you're being hunted, you have to have good eyesight and good senses, otherwise you're going to be killed every day. So, you know, these birds have developed really well, much like the eagles have, that they can be able to see and see what... So to see that was pretty amazing. Oh, and a little song to sing us away. So, Tar Ginger, I believe that's number 75 on your bird list with us, which is good going. I'm sure we can do a lot more, and we will try. I wonder if there's any birds, if you want to send us a list of birds that you would like to see and haven't seen on the drive yet, maybe we can help out and try and get that list up and see if we can get a few more species added to it. But 75 is really good. It's quite a few birds on live camera, which is very, very cool. So Lionheart, getting back to our bee eater and bees and how they are declining worldwide, you're asking whether or not they are declining here. Well, no real studies have been done in this game reserve or in the Kruger National Park, but just the general consensus is that most of the populations have gone down. I certainly haven't seen nearly as many bees as we normally see. I remember when I first started in the Sabi Sands, we often used to see quite a large number of them in hives all around, and these days we don't see that many at all. So I haven't seen too many, but the population would then affect other species, not so much the bee eaters. The bee eaters, like I was saying earlier, are able to feed off other insects, so you'll find them catching butterflies, and so they'll sustain their diet with a multitude of other insects. They won't just go after bees, so they should be okay. And from what I've seen, the bee eater populations have been alright. This year we've had really good numbers of European bee eaters. We didn't get great carmine bee eaters, but that's because I think we had very little late rain. So in the last month, when the carmine bee eaters have arrived, we've had very little rain, so I think that's why we haven't had too many. And I know Botswana, especially northern Botswana, is in flood at the moment, and so a lot of the bee eaters that would normally come down to here have gone into that area. They've gone into these flooded zones where there's lots of insect activity now, and so they would have gotten stuck up there. So the numbers of bee eaters, as far as I understand it and as far as I've seen, are still very good. Most of the bee eaters are in healthy populations at the moment that occur in this particular area, so it seems like the decline in bees is not affecting them too much. Sorry, I just think I saw some tracks there, so I just want to reverse quickly. So it looks like tracks for hyenas that were walking around here, but not very fresh at all. These tracks are probably from yesterday. Alright, and talking about hyenas, it's quite a coincidence. James is busy checking out the new hyena den and seeing if there's any signs of activity.
Well, this is the new whist hyena den, everyone, as Tristan says, new. Well, we found 3 or 4 like this now. This was spotted by Herbert this morning. He said he saw a hyena going in and out of this hole. There are tracks of hyenas here, but it's very similar to the one that we have found off Elephant Carcass Road, which is about half a mile sort of over my right shoulder here. And if we look inside, Herbert says you can see this thing is being used by the tracks and by the smoothness of the ground inside there. Now, it's possible that hyenas come here and given birth. As we know, what happens with these hyenas is that they will disappear at the slightest hint of a threat and leave the babies inside, in the knowledge that the babies will be safe there. And if you look where my stick is, it's a very clear print of a hyena coming out of the den. And Herbie saw them going straight in and out. And then the little leopard, Xongile, was sitting on top of this mound. So clearly there were no adult hyenas around, because a little leopard won't tolerate adult hyenas. They'll climb a tree, or be chased up a tree, more accurately. And in here, of course, well, there could be little ones. Who knows? We'll keep checking here. I think a lot of these excavations have been kind of exploratory, and perhaps no one's actually given birth yet. And I wonder if the hyena that Herbert didn't see here this morning, we saw Corky having a bit of a drink at the dam. She headed this direction. We came around the other side, didn't find her again, but it was just as Herbert found the Xongile and, of course, the hyena coming out of here. I don't hear any whimpering of hyenas. Reese, you say, would it be a good idea to use camera traps near the potential hyena dens? Reese, I guess it would. The thing is, though, we know these hyenas pretty well. We can identify them, well, certainly some people can identify them, but we know that this is a clan that lives in this area specifically. So it's not like we don't know that there are hyenas here. A camera trap's greatest advantage is catching pictures of animals that are not confiding, that don't want to be around human beings. These hyenas are not like that. We know that there are hyenas here. We can see their tracks everywhere. And if we come and check here often enough, then they'll be here. Yeah, it'd be interesting, certainly, to put a camera trap around here and see what came in and went out. But largely, I think that we probably get a pretty good impression of what's going on with the hyenas because we check these areas so much. So yes, it would add a little bit. Would it solve the mystery? Probably not quite. I hope that answers your question. Right, let's head off this way. Alora, no, and that's precisely the point. You say, wouldn't it be dangerous if this was an active hyena den for us to be this close? No, because the adults see us as a threat. They will move away. If there are little babies inside, they will go up onto the little shelf that they've created at the back of the den, where we wouldn't be able to get them, and wouldn't be able to get them. Nobody else would try and go in there and try to get them, except maybe something like a python, I guess. But I suspect a python or a mamba would smell the hyena and think, oh, I don't think I want to go near there. So the adults will move away. So it's not dangerous. Were this a lion den, were this a leopard den, if there was a leopardess who had stashed her cubs in a little termite mound like this would be suicide. This would be extremely dangerous. Likewise with the lion, because they just won't tolerate people around. And the leopard cubs, remember, are completely altricial. They're born blind, they cannot hear anything, and so they need to be carried and moved absolutely everywhere where they go. The hyena cubs, however, are born with teeth. With their eyes open, they can hear and they can move. And the first thing they do is to excavate their little shelf at the back of the den that not even their mother can get onto. So they're much more precocial than are, say, lions or leopards, and their mothers are much more secure, leaving them in the safety of the den. It's actually a really clever strategy, I think, because, of course, then there's no risk to the mother should a predator come along. If there are babies in that den, do I think that maybe Xongile was trying to hunt them? No, I don't. I think she could easily have been inquisitive about it, and she could have tried to sort of find out what was in there, because she, of course, hasn't seen a hyena baby as far as we're aware. So, yes, she could have done that. Do I think she would have tried to hunt them? Well, I guess if one of them had stuck its head out, yeah, absolutely. I mean, leopards are renowned for killing other predators, but not hyenas. Very seldom hyenas. And I think, an adult hyena would have chased Xongile away, while she would have scarpered at the sight of us coming along this way. She almost certainly would have chased the young leopard away. Now, Little Hosanna could be around here somewhere. That's now become our goal. We're heading towards Treehouse Dam, and as far as I understand it, Karula and Xongile have headed south across the boundary. Is that correct, Rebecca? That's as far as I've understood it. And so maybe little Hosanna has decided he wants to be on his own for a while. I don't know. So we're going to walk slowly through here and see what we can find. There's definitely been, this is where the vehicles were this morning, but we'll also find, hopefully, various other interesting little things, like that spider that we opened with. I find these spiders that live in amongst the grass just very fascinating indeed. I imagine that big tree over there would have been a perfect spot for Hosanna to sit for the day, but I think Tristan's suggestion that they could be around Treehouse Dam, that he could be around Treehouse Dam, is a good one, given that Xongile and Karula have gone south into Little Gowrie. Right, Brent Leo Smith has made his way to the far east, hopefully for a repeat of the Birmingham elephant interaction from yesterday. Let's go and find out how that is going.
Well, that wouldn't be wonderful, wouldn't it? But we're actually looking for Mr. Q at the moment, quarantine male leopard. I'm checking all the likely lovely Marulas and big termite mounds. And his last tracks were around here coming into Cheetah Plains. I just wanted to double check. So I think he was still to the south of us last night when we were watching those Birminghams be chased. So now two of the Birminghams, sorry, let me just turn my radio down, there we go. Two of the Birminghams are on Torchwood, so there's still one that is missing, so I'm going to see if maybe he didn't wander all the way through. But I'm really hoping for quarantine this afternoon.